In this video, we'll be taking a look at 3 NBA games happening on March 10th, 2026, and providing you with free team picks and total picks for each one of those games, so 6 picks in total. Welcome back to Cash Out Sports. Let's dive right into it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and to click the bell icon to get notified as soon as these videos get released so that you have more time to plan out your bets as we provide these videos on a daily basis. I can guarantee that you'll have all the important information that you'll need on these 3 NBA games after fully watching this video. One more thing before we start, if you would like to gain access to our best exclusive sports picks to take your journey to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below, where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Now let's get started. Indiana Pacers versus Sacramento Kings. The Indiana Pacers head into the Golden One Center to face the Sacramento Kings on Tuesday night, and it feels more like a battle of survival than a classic showdown. The Pacers are coming off losses to the Lakers and Trailblazers, and they have the Suns on deck, which is a rough little stretch when you have already dropped 13 of your last 15 games. That kind of run wears on a group, no matter how much they talk about staying together and playing hard, and you can sense how thin the margin is for them right now. The Kings are not exactly cruising either, as they just lost to the Pelicans, squeezed out a win over the Bulls, and now see the Hornets next while dragging a run of 19 losses in their last 22 games. It is the sort of slump that makes every home game feel like a must-respond spot, even if the standings say something different. On the injury front, the Pacers are still without T.J. McConnell, Ivica Zubac, and Pascal Siakam, and both Andrew Nembhard and Jarrett Walker sit in that uneasy day-to-day zone where you are never quite sure until closer to tip. The Kings have already ruled out Zach LaVine, Domantas Sabonis, DeAndre Hunter, and Keegan Murray again, so their rotation is also stitched together and leaning heavily on whoever is healthy enough to go. With both groups missing key pieces and confidence clearly shaken, trusting either side fully right now feels like asking for trouble. It still feels strange to see this Kings team in the favorite role, but that speaks more to how poorly the Pacers are playing than any big surge from Sacramento. Indiana is 1-9 straight up and against the spread in its last 10 games, has only 5 road wins to its name, and that injury list just keeps growing instead of shrinking, so expecting a sudden turnaround is a stretch. The Kings at least have shown a pulse with recent wins over the Mavericks and Bulls, which suggests they have not thrown in the towel, and 10 of their 15 victories have come at home, where the crowd can still nudge them into a decent effort. This matchup probably stays tighter than either fan base would like, but with the Pacers so banged up and still sliding, the lean goes to the Kings to handle their business as the healthier and slightly more stable side at the moment. They are coming off a solid home win powered by big performances from Monk, Raynaud, and Westbrook, and that kind of night can give a wobbly locker room a little spark, even if it does not fix everything overnight. It might turn into a scrappy, messy game with some awkward stretches, but this spot lines up for Sacramento to grab a bit of relief at home and do just enough to cover. As our first pick for this matchup, the Sacramento Kings to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. The Indiana Pacers are averaging 111.3 points on 45% shooting and allowing 119.3 points on 48.7% shooting. The Indiana Pacers are shooting 34.8% from beyond the arc and 76.7% from the free throw line. The Indiana Pacers are allowing 34.2% shooting from deep and are grabbing 42.3 rebounds per game. Those numbers paint a pretty clear picture, as their offense is decent, but their defense keeps springing leaks, which turns a lot of nights into track meets instead of controlled half-court battles. When you are giving up that kind of efficiency, even ordinary offensive possessions can turn into easy looks, and games can speed up without anyone really planning for it. The Sacramento Kings are averaging 110.1 points on 46.1% shooting and allowing 121.1 points on 49.6% shooting. The Sacramento Kings are shooting 33.8% from beyond the arc and 77.6% from the free throw line. The Sacramento Kings are allowing 36.5% shooting from deep and are grabbing 41.4 rebounds per game. So you have another team that scores fairly well, gets to a respectable clip from the field, but then concedes even more on the other end, especially from 3, which is usually a recipe for swings and scoring bursts. Even with the injuries on both sides, the combination of shaky perimeter defense, efficient shooting, and the tendency for these teams to give up big runs suggests a game where the points can stack up in bunches rather than grind to a halt. There might be some ugly offensive possessions here and there, but the overall environment still leans toward a higher scoring rhythm instead of a slow, suffocating one. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Charlotte Hornets versus Portland Trailblazers. The Charlotte Hornets roll into the Moda Center on Tuesday night to take on the Portland Trailblazers, and it has the feel of one of those quietly important games for both sides. The Hornets are coming off losses to the Heat and Suns, and with the Kings up next on their schedule, they would really like to steady things here. They have still won 16 of their last 21 games, so even with those recent setbacks, their broader form has been strong and their confidence should not be completely shaken. The Trailblazers, on the other hand, just fell to the Rockets, managed a win over the Pacers, and then see the Jazz after this one, which is a pretty typical snapshot of their season. They have taken 8 of their last 14 games, which is decent but not exactly overwhelming, and it fits that middle-of-the-pack feel they have carried for months. Injuries are still shaping this matchup quite a bit. The Hornets remain without Coy White, Liam McNeely, and T.J. Salin, and that limits some of their depth even while the core is still intact. Portland has again ruled out Damian Lillard and Shaedon Sharpe, so their backcourt and overall scoring punch are still not at full strength. Charlotte really needs this type of spot to get back on track after dropping 2 in a row, and they have a practical reason to feel good, since they already handled the Trailblazers by 109-93 less than 2 weeks ago. That kind of recent win can linger in the back of players' minds, especially when you know you have already solved the same opponent with a similar roster. For only the second time in almost 3 months, the Hornets have lost back-to-back games, which actually says more about how well they have played than how bad this short skid is. They go into Portland looking to flip the momentum, facing a team that has beaten them at the Moda Center 16 times in the last 17 meetings. That kind of lopsided history can sting a little, and honestly, if that is not enough motivation for LaMelo Ball and the rest of that locker room, it is hard to imagine what would be. The numbers over the past 15 games make their case even clearer. Only the San Antonio Spurs have a better offensive rating than the Hornets in that stretch, and defensively Charlotte ranks 7th, which is a pretty impressive two-way balance over a meaningful sample. Despite the 2 recent losses, they have still collected 15 wins in their last 20 games and have taken 10 of their last 11 on the road, which is the kind of road form most teams would love to borrow. Portland, by comparison, has been sitting in that middle ground for most of the year. Not terrible, not great, just floating. They have a firm hold on the 10th seed in the Western Conference, and with the Memphis Grizzlies 7 games behind them, it is fairly reasonable to think that spot is secure for now. That buffer has taken some pressure off the group and has even allowed their star player Denny Avdija to sit additional games while he tries to manage a lingering back issue that has bothered him for most of the last couple of months. Even with 2 wins in their last 3 outings, the recent form of the Blazers is not particularly convincing. They have won only 3 of 10 games against Eastern Conference opponents, which matters here, and from a betting angle they are just 1-4 against the spread over their last 5 overall, which hints at the market expecting more than they have delivered. History in this building has favored Portland strongly, but the current state of both squads points in a different direction. Charlotte has covered in 9 of its last 11 games, and this matchup gives them a chance to sweep the regular season series against the Trailblazers for the first time since the 2007-08 season, back when the franchise was still called the Bobcats. Portland is gradually getting healthier, and it feels like only a matter of time before they start stacking more wins again. But right now the Hornets remain the hotter team, and their recent level suggests they can both handle this matchup and cover the short number in this spot. As our first pick for this matchup, the Charlotte Hornets to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. The Charlotte Hornets are averaging 116 points on 46% shooting and allowing 112.6 points on 47% shooting. The Charlotte Hornets are shooting 37.8% from beyond the arc and 81.7% from the free throw line. The Charlotte Hornets are allowing 36% shooting from deep and are grabbing 46.3 rebounds per game. Those numbers show an offense that is efficient from the field and especially from 3, with a solid free throw clip, while their defense still gives up a fair amount of efficiency. That combination usually creates games where both teams get comfortable looks, and with strong rebounding, there are enough possessions for the total scoring to keep climbing. The Portland Trailblazers are averaging 115.2 points on 45% shooting and allowing 118.3 points on 47.6% shooting. The Portland Trailblazers are shooting 33.7% from beyond the arc and 76.7% from the free throw line. The Portland Trailblazers are allowing 36.3% shooting from deep and are grabbing 45.6 rebounds per game. So you have another team that can put points on the board while also surrendering a high percentage from the field and from three, with rebounding numbers that keep second chance opportunities in play on both sides. When both offenses sit in the mid-100 teens, both defenses allow opponents to shoot in the high 40s, and neither side is shutting down the perimeter. It usually tilts the environment toward a more open game where scoring runs show up again and again. Even if there are a few rough offensive stretches, the general rhythm here still points toward a matchup where the total points land on the higher side rather than in a slow, low-scoring grind. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Minnesota Timberwolves versus Los Angeles Lakers. Minnesota walks into Crypto.com arena feeling like the group that has carried more weight this season, and the way the odds makers shade this matchup tells you they agree. The two records sit in that same neighborhood where both fan bases feel justified talking about playoff noise, but the respect line clearly tilts toward the Wolves as the slight road favorite. That kind of tag does not come from one hot week. It usually comes from months of being the more trustworthy side, the team that rarely beats itself and usually forces you to play clean for 4 quarters. That recent blowout loss to Orlando actually adds a twist here. Good teams get embarrassed on national screens sometimes. It happens, but the more serious ones usually respond with a sharper version of themselves rather than sulking through the next game. Minnesota has the look of a group that treats that kind of punch as a reminder, not a crisis. And this spot sets up like a chance to prove that the previous game was a blip rather than a trend. Matchup-wise, the Wolves bring a very annoying sort of size to deal with for 48 minutes. Rudy Gobert still owns vertical space in the paint. Julius Randle gives them a strong forward who can knock people off their spots. And Jaden McDaniels is exactly the kind of long wing that makes every catch and dribble feel like a chore. That is the kind of defensive profile that can make life much harder on an offense that leans heavily on high-level shot-making from stars like Luka Doncic and, if available, LeBron James. They can keep sending fresh, physical bodies at the primary creators while still leaving enough shooting and decision-making on the floor to punish any overhelp. Health tilts in a subtle but real way. Minnesota's main concern is Kyle Anderson as a day-to-day name with knee soreness, which is important but not defining for how they want to play. Across the court, the big question mark is LeBron, and his status sits in that uncomfortable gray area where nothing is guaranteed until the warm-up videos hit social media. You cannot assume full-strength minutes, and that uncertainty alone changes how comfortable you feel about depending on the Lakers to string together 40-plus locked-in minutes against a physical opponent. Behind that, the Wolves can stagger Anthony Edwards with secondary creators like Dante DiVincenzo and Mike Conley, keep Gobert and Naz Reid rotating through the middle, and still have Randle as a late-game battering ram when possessions get stuck in the mud. That rotation feels deeper and younger, something you notice especially late in the third and early in the fourth when legs start to go and mental mistakes creep in. The Lakers still lean very hard on their top-end talent just to keep pace in a brutal conference, while Minnesota has a few more levers it can pull if Plan A hits traffic. When you put together that recent stretch of strong results, the ability to answer a bad loss with focus, and the simple fact that the market is only asking this group to win by a few possessions rather than run away with it, the side that looks more reliable to handle its business is pretty clear. As our first pick for this matchup, the Minnesota Timberwolves to cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. The total number hanging on this game might look a little high at first glance, but once you compare it to how these offenses score and how these defenses bend, it starts to feel almost perfectly tuned. Minnesota lives in that space where it can put up a strong total on most nights, and the Lakers tend to sit just a small step behind, which means you are rarely surprised when both hit the scoreboard in a serious way. Their defensive profiles are not brick walls either, more like sturdy doors that still creak if you keep leaning on them possession after possession. Recent results tell a slightly different story. Box scores show a stretch where both teams have finished with lower combined totals than the closing numbers more than once. That kind of mini understreak often nudges the total down a touch. Odds makers know people stare at the last 5 games on an app and feel influenced, and that can create a bit of a discount on a game where the ingredients still point toward points. Stylistically, neither team is trying to recreate slow-motion slugfests from another era. Both groups lean into spacing, heavy pick and roll usage for their main creators, and plenty of three-point attempts. Anthony Edwards is flirting with that 30 points a night territory. Luka Doncic sits in a similar scoring universe, and those two alone can swing a sleepy quarter into a fireworks show if they catch rhythm for even 6 or 7 minutes. It only takes one of those stretches where every pull-up feels like a layup for a quarter that was tracking modestly to suddenly end 10 points higher than you expected. LeBron sits in the middle of this as the big wild card. His official tag is questionable, and that label carries a lot of different meanings depending on how the warm-up looks and how he feels that day. If he plays and looks anywhere close to himself, he brings another fast processing playmaker who speeds up possessions with advanced passes and forces extra help. Extra help means kickouts, kickouts mean open threes, and open threes plus aggressive drives usually lead to more whistles and more free throws. Even if he is limited or sits, you still have a game where Minnesota wants to pressure the rim with Edwards and Randle hunting mismatches, while the Lakers want the ball in Luka's hands with shooters like Austin Reeves and Marcus Smart spaced out and ready. Those are classic ingredients for a night where you get a few long scoring runs, some messy foul stretches in the fourth, and a final combined total that sneaks higher than people expected when they check the number in the afternoon. So while the recent trend lines might nudge some viewers toward expecting another quieter box score, the mix of talent, style, and potential late-game whistles still leans toward a louder scoreboard by the time the buzzer sounds. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed, subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.